The reason you don't see 70% of the job market is because they either don't trust the process, they don't trust the job board. It's also very much an expense thing, but they're filling the roles through referrals and word of mouth and using their internal employees.
Hi everyone, this is Katana Abbott and welcome to Smart Women Talk, where we explore how women can live with more purpose, passion, and prosperity in every stage of their life. Many women reach a point in midlife where they begin asking a powerful question. What do I do with everything that I've learned? Today, we're exploring how your experiences can become influence and opportunity in your next chapter. Joining me is Katie Fortunato, co-founder of Higher Innovations and a leader in reimagining how people connect to meaningful work. Katie, welcome to Smart Women Talk. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Katana. It's such a flattering thing to be part of the Smart Women network now.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And we've had this program since 2010, and it actually started out as Smart Women's Coaching in 2005.
Oh, wow. So we've been smart all along.
Oh, yeah, we are. And it's just great. I don't know how that resonated with me, but I just love the idea of helping women make smart life choices, financial choices. And today we're going to really be talking about careers. And I'm so excited for you to share your wisdom with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What led you to create a business where you are connecting people to meaningful work?
I guess my story is a bit unconventional. I was a student of the fine arts and found myself trying to live the Hollywood, Los Angeles dream, and quickly realized, this was all after college, but quickly realized I wanted to make more money and have more control over that. And as an actress, you're so subjected to an opinion and a bias and getting hired for the job and because of the way you look, not the talent you have. So it felt like too much of an unknown for me. I'm pretty control freak and type A. I like to control my destiny a little bit. So I went to the corporate world, started working through basically the chain and the ladder. I started at MTV in the corporate world. I had a short stint as a recruiter and HR development person. And then I worked at the emergence of an industry that I call the ad tech industry and was at AOL Networks when that was like really an emerging industry to be in on the technology and advertising side. It changed advertising and thus changing the way that we access information. So it's very relatable. Then the next phase, I'd say I really discovered like what I loved to do, and it was more partnerships and business development and being scrappy and startup-y. And so I worked at the Wall Street Journal Dow Jones Company, and I got to work on a legacy brand that everyone knows and help figure out how does this company continue to diversify revenue. And I loved that challenge. So when I thought about the next phase after I had my children, of course, like it looked different for me. So what was that? And new entrepreneurship was the path I wanted to take. Again, like working in legacy brands, amazing, but they work very slow. And I want to do things quickly. I want to make an impact and see it right away. So I knew that was my destiny. And then how I arrived at Higher Innovations uniquely is a family business for me. And the older generation who started the business initially, they're thinking about what's their next chapter and moving on. And the family had to think, what is the next phase for this family business? Are we introducing the emerging generations into leadership? And I think with that, it was the right timing. And I had all these fresh ideas on what do we do with innovation and hiring, and where once we were on that curve and emerging trajectory, like how do we stay on that, and what does the next chapter look like for our business? So that's when I joined the family business, Higher Innovations, and I look after innovation.
Yeah, so it's interesting because the family was actually thinking about legacy.
They were, but they were thinking about all the options, frankly.
Mhm.
Like, as a family business, you get to the point of, is this a longer term entity that is going to help support and continue to support the family? Or do we sell? Do we exit? Do we go public? All of those pathways were constantly in evaluating all of them. But the short term is, let's make it as successful as it could possibly be, and ultimately a wonderful place for us to work and solving a problem in the world. And right now we're on that let's see what happens phase, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's great. And bringing in the next generation is just wonderful. So many women who are watching, they've been spending decades building careers. They have all this experience, and then they have all these relationships, what I like to call the golden Rolodex. So why do you believe that these experiences that we have are so valuable?
I have mentors who are of all ages.
Mhm.
And when I am feeling stressed, worried about the future, I know who I turn to, and it's I believe he's 83. I hope he's not offended. He could be 85, 83. I turn to him and I say, you've seen the cycles that I haven't, and neither have any of my peers. Like, how do you go through the changes? How do you anticipate? How do you get ready? He had a remarkable business story that he happened to time his exits from his companies at the perfect moments. He was a founder and executive at like Filene's Basement and was huge in retail. And he always was looking for the trends around consumer behavior, what are people talking about, and making those big bets with business. And he's relaxed, like every other generation before you, you'll figure it out, like we all did. And one of those, the importance of having a mentor is probably the biggest thing I would say, like for any young person who is aspiring to be a professional and grow their career, find a mentor who's been there before. Doesn't matter if the technology is different. It doesn't matter. There's a lot to learn about the world that we could never possibly have experienced.
So you're saying it is so important for the women in midlife who have all these contacts and have this experience to turn around and to mentor others.
I fully believe if there's anyone in your audience here who is saying, yes, how do I use this decades of, maybe decades, but how do I use this legacy to help the next generation? Mentorship is amazing. And there's paid opportunities, there's volunteer opportunities, there's informal opportunities, there's formal opportunities, joining a board, joining a advisory committee or a council. So those opportunities are there. And I think if I'm thinking, where do you go to even find them? You start with your nearest and dearest and start asking and start talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. You just have to ask. And I understand that you have a service that can assist people with mentoring and connections. Is that correct?
So one of the companies is called JobStream, and we are launching that. It's live and everything. What we have found is we have a lot of career coaches and executive coaches who I'd say are maybe people who they've amassed a very niche expertise and now they're coaching others. And we see this with healthcare people who are maybe no longer clinical, but have a lot to offer to young and emerging students and emerging leaders. They've developed with their following, their networks and their experiences, these coaching businesses. And Katana, I know you have one as well. I think that's a wonderful way to help people. What we've found, why are they coming to us, is because they help coach people how to get the job. And then what we're doing is giving them an exclusive job network. So we're not recruiters, but we're able to say, when anybody navigating applying for jobs right now is experiencing this, you don't know, is the job posting real? You don't know if your resume is ever going to get seen. You might never hear back. You might never, there's just it's a black hole. So what we're saying is our job network, human vetted links. We work with real employers who are actively looking for specialists. And Also, what we're finding is there are a lot of senior level required roles in these niche areas, like healthcare, for example, nursing, for example. And even if you're not clinical, there are a lot of like tangential or adjacent roles that are supportive of the business. I think you have to know where to go to find the real job links. Like the job boards are quite intimidating.
My daughter has mentioned that to me,
What did she say?
that the jobs were fake, that really wasn't that. And she said something about some of them, they had to post it, but they weren't interested in hiring. And I saw one of the stats was that 70% of the jobs aren't even posted publicly. With all the changes in the workforce, how can we open the door for the next generation? And I want to add one thing because I'd like you to talk about that, but also for all these women who are finally going into their next act. They're launching something of their own.
Absolutely. The first part was how do you find the
Yeah.
job? What's changed is the how easy it is to be fraudulent. And it's not like people like you and me, it's everyone else. And so that's what you're up against as a job seeker. As
Yeah.
an employer, it's equally as challenging to hire somebody because
Yeah.
you don't know, is that person real? Or have they vibe coded and AI-ified their resume that it looks like a perfect match? Well, that's the first indicator that's going to disqualify you. Employers have their antennas up as well. The reason you don't see 70% of the job market is because they either don't trust the process, they don't trust the job board. It's also very much an expense thing, but they're filling the roles through referrals and word of mouth and using their internal employees as their own recruitment channel to say, do you know anyone else who could come and work for us? And we're going to reward you big time if you refer your friends in or peers or whatever. I think it's access and it's knowing the things to look for. Like the way we would define an employer who's really hiring is an employer who's actively promoting and invested in finding candidates. And how do we know that? Our sister company is the technology server that basically they run their advertising through. So let's assume if you're a company, you're paying money to find job candidates, you're not just throwing that money away. You have a real intent and you're really looking for a professional. And that's really the market that we sit in. And I think the other thing is looking for the labor market insights of like where are the ebbs and flows, and there's always volatility. I call it it's like the stock market index, but it's for talent, and it's the talent market index. And right now it says healthcare, if you're one who's interested in career stability, healthcare is a constant. We saw this last month that operations and IT was a high growth, and the reason for that is because all these companies are trying to figure out AI automations and whatnot. And then there's the retail, food, hospitality, and those are jobs that almost anyone can do. It's a matter of being in the right location, frankly. So they're out there, you just have to know where to look.
Wow. Yeah. And I just was wondering, I love that, the talent market index.
Yes, it's Livity. It's one of our sister companies, another company I founded, but they basically are putting how it's different than the Bureau's data is that the Bureau is going to multiple sources and aggregating. But what they are not able to do is filter out all the fake jobs. And that's because they work with partners like job boards and LinkedIn and Microsoft, and they don't have the same data set as we do because we're working directly with the employers. So, that's where you can't always trust the numbers, and they're always reported a month later, and there is a huge latency. But at least this index is giving us like what's the snapshot of the Fortune 500 and key industries that are constantly advertising for jobs. So that's how I get to saying that's how we see the growth in healthcare and sustained demand in healthcare and the hospitality and retail and food. And they call it frontline, but anyone can do those jobs again.
Something that's huge right now is that we're being told that many of the jobs are going to go away because of AI. Is that your belief too, or do you see something different? Is AI a real big issue right now?
It is certainly newsworthy, and the constant debate, is this a bubble or not? And no one has the answer, but my prediction is if you are not using AI, you need to be. If you want to be relevant at your existing company, you need to learn how AI helps your job and helps your productivity, and you need to be talking about it. But no one's going to come in and teach anyone how to do it. This is a self-taught skill that is going to separate the survivors and the ones who are not going to survive. The other thing I think of is what are the, even in strategizing for our business, what are the jobs that a robot or AI probably won't take, or very high unlikelihood that they would? And so that takes me back to healthcare because if robots give surgeries, that's fine, but I'm probably not one of their patients. But I think it's thinking about that future proofing and what's the defensibility that whether you're looking for work now or you're somebody who is emerging and thinking about looking for work, where's the defensibility for myself? What skills cannot be replaced with AI? And then you start looking and touching on the soft skills. It's crazy that I'm consulting and pro bono work, but going to schools and saying this is about soft skills development. When you show up to an office and if someone's talking out of respect, especially if it's CEO or stakeholder in the company, you pay attention and focus with your eyes. But so different from the way that they're being brought up right now in schools. The laptops are out, the phones are in their pockets or on their desk. There are social and societal norms that have shifted. But I think, again, like this is where the midlife generation should be leaning in. And why we're paying for 4-year colleges and the kids are asking about etiquette. So I think we might be going back to full circle, but I went on a tangent there.
No, you didn't at all. Our listeners are going to be relating to this big time.
Okay.
I think this is great. We're talking about helping that next generation. And I think that is so important. Before the show started, we had a little conversation, and one of the things you shared with me is how the soccer moms, the parents, they are networking because we talk about all these the experience we have and our connections. They are networking together to help their kids get into the right college and also later to get the right jobs. So they're already doing this kind of thing. Can you talk about that a little more? Because we didn't go into detail, but I think that's going to be of interest.
I think so. So I was watching the National Geographic the other night, and they have this new show on Disney, and it's probably not new, but it's new to my TV, I guess. But it was telling the story about how orca whales, and they actually just whales in general, but when they're doing their like seasonal transatlantic journeys, they always bring their calves and their young alongside with them. And that is normal. They co-sleep together, they co-prepare meals together, they co-hunt together for years and years. And it said these whales, they're not like deviating from the path. It's a straight line. They don't go left or right. They are on the degree to get there as efficiently and quickly as possible. And why? Is because they have to be efficient for survival. They have to get there because they're hungry. If they don't get there in time, the other whales will eat their food. There's just this very like primal thing that I think our society has, back to like how we help the next generation. I feel like our society has shamed that multi-generational transfer of skills, etiquette, sensibilities, and you see it on social media like Nepo Baby. I personally am very proud to work for my family's business. It's an honor and it's a privilege. And I also know that the majority of people who get hired, it's from a personal relationship or referral. It fluctuates between 70% to 85% of people are referred in. And so what does that say? That means we should be reaching to the next generation. We should be reaching to the neighbors and saying, hey, I have these resources, connections, or skills and ideas. I'm going to help you. And I think it's just culturally could happen more. And you say we're all doing it. We are. And I play tennis with, it's a very mixed team. And they could not understand a thing about the technology that I've built. However, if it's something that they're interested in for their children, oh, they're listening. And it usually comes with a send me their resume, let me see. And like I could always help them and just getting the word out and also like talking about it. And if everybody's really doing it, then we should be talking about it more because that's how we can all support and make like a bigger impact. I don't know.
Well,
Do you feel the societal kind of change around like when they say Nepo babies? Do you feel that's fair? I don't know.
and it's funny because I'm midlife. I'm actually past midlife. I'm in my third act, not even a second act. And when you said that, I don't know what it means. So I know that there's other listeners that don't know what that means. My daughter may have said something like that to me the other day, and I didn't ask her to clarify.
okay. So this is
I
a
have an
fun one.
idea, but I want you to share.
A Nepo baby is somebody who gets the job from nepotism. Nepotism meaning they got the job because of a like first degree relationship and usually like a family member. It's honestly like the hardest position to be in when you are working with your family and you're the hardest working person at the company. I personally take offense to it. And again, if you're in that position that you can give that to your children or your children's friends, even, it can actually be a beautiful thing. Like the work relationship you have will be so real, so honest, and so authentic. And you can't get that anywhere else. I promise.
No, and I see it from such a different angle because I'm the parent. And I see it as such a positive thing. And I actually did an interview a while back with a father and daughter. And the show was all on legacy. And they have a family foundation and how the younger people are all taking over. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. But they are teaching them to lead and to make a difference in the community. And so I do hope that our listeners are taking this in and understanding how important it is that we use our connections to help others. And sometimes there's a problem where women may be looking at another woman as competition. That's more in corporate than entrepreneurship. I don't see it in entrepreneurship, but I did see it when I was in corporate. The women are a little bit more competitive with each other. But I love the idea of us helping that next generation to excel and to get the connections they need, and also just to teach them how it all works. And that's why this whole idea of having a mentor, I know coaching is huge, but I just hope more and more women will be involved in mentoring and just to put it front and center
Yes.
and do it consciously. So I love that.
Everyone needs a coach.
Yeah, we do. It's funny. When I first started in the coaching industry, there were no coaches. There were none. Very, very few. I'm just so excited. You're a young person and you talk about the software you created. Tell us how it can help what we're talking about. We're talking about mentoring, helping others, connecting others.
I think I can only speak to the context of so JobStream it's a technology platform to help creators, and also we're seeing a lot of career coaches. They access our exclusive job network that I was mentioning is the real vetted employers and all that. And they give job recommendations to their followers. And if you're a career coach, you give the job recommendation to your clients. Why we've all of a sudden we're in a growth spurt with career coaches is because they can teach how to do, but what they really need at the end of it is the job. And how they're not recruiters, maybe they were. So how do they help make the connection? And what JobStream does is gives that access and that trusted point of connectivity to a real valid job when we're living in this world of fraud. So I think it's a trust-based business. We pay our career creators based on the applications, which means they have to be really connecting with their audiences and driving a qualified engagement and connection to happen. So we reward on the positive impact of when person applies to job. And what does that mean for that person? They've gone through all the hoops. They have spent the 15 minutes on the application. They have made their portfolio. They have written a cover letter if they're old fashioned like me. And they have invested time into doing that. And many other technologies, they reward on behavior, clicks. They call it cost per click. And so we took a very different approach. And that's also probably one of the things that differentiates us. So where a career coach might see, oh, I posted a job on my LinkedIn and I got 100 people to click on it and I got 10 people to apply. They just made $200. And the alternative is with the cost per click is you're paying for the click, but you're not getting the right behavior. Like you're not. So, anyways, I hope that maybe helps frame it into context and how we're working with career coaches, but it's become a new source of revenue for them that's passive. And it's what an amazing way. Like we have a few career coaches who have hundreds of thousands of followers, and it became very lucrative for them. But that's the lifetime of their career, their reputation, the trust that they've built. Like it's all coming full circle. They're paying it back. Yet, do you think it's something that I think where we see them challenged is, well, if I'm not already creating content online, which Katana, you are, of course, like the queen here, but not everybody even has that. So it can be a very intimidating place of like where to get started. But the best way is just to try. Just pick one platform that feels accessible and relatable.
So, your ideal client for our listeners who you're talking about for JobStream, for example, they're a career coach, you're saying?
Yeah, they're influencers on social media. They can be associations. They can be nonprofits. In fact, we work with the Big Brother, Big Sister on their Big Futures, which is a mentorship program to help kids with career preparation and professional development. It can be a school, it can be an alumni association, it can be a Facebook moms group, which they're actually really fun in there. I see a lot of the cross-generational career search support, and it's a very natural place to reach out to your community and use this as content that's engaging. That is the ideal, but it's really anyone who has a following on one of these social channels. I would caution if you don't have a following, if you're not posting on social media, truthfully, we're probably not the platform for you. It will be too hard. But also, I just encourage you to get started. Like, just start.
So how do our listeners find out, or those watching on YouTube, how do they find out about this?
So they can go for JobStream, they can go to getjobstream.com and click the apply to become a creator button. And then Katana, for your community too, like the code that they use should be your name, Katana Abbott, and we'll make sure that there's like a queue. So we'll make sure that they're rising up on the queue.
And let me say, it's ABBOTT.
ABBOTT, yes.
Yeah, it's a double, and a lot of people don't know that. So that can be confusing. And what were you going to say about it?
That we'll see that it's your community who's interested, and maybe we can set up like a virtual co-working session for anybody who's interested, and we can walk you through how to get started in your first 7 days, and then you decide, is that something I want to try? Could be resourceful if for even your own job search or your kid's job search too. So a trusted set of jobs, that is.
Yeah, I want to check that out too then. Wonderful. So I asked you to save a Smart Women tip for our viewers and listeners. Would you like to do that right now? What's one last tip you'd like to leave with us?
One last tip is just to be curious and always be learning. I usually say always be hiring and always be learning, because that's what's going to set you apart from the person who's not.
Katie Fortunato, it's been so wonderful having you here. And I love seeing someone from the younger generation who's so brilliant and so eloquent.
Oh my gosh, you are so sweet. You made my day. I loved being here. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for joining us. And everyone, please come to joinsmartwomen.com. And when you do, you can get on our newsletter and you will know who's coming to the show. And you'll also be invited when we launch again our new community. So until our next show, go out and live with more purpose, more passion, and prosperity.